We return today looking for the 6th piece of the Staff of Chaos. Actually quite a lot of dialogue going on, so let's jump straight on into it. First, I needed to visit any old place to rest, speak to Rhea Silmain, get a little bit more of that sweet Jagar Tharn voice acting. So I picked First Hold here. It says, when High Lord Taranan came to this isle, our city sprang from his first step onto its rocky shores. Be welcome to First Hold, birthplace of the High Elves who carry our past. I picked this place for no real reason. I mean, that's cool lore, hearing the combination of a city on an island, what the game will generate. But mostly just because it's somewhat en route to our next location. I know that's a mystery still, but you'll see in just a moment. Anyway, here's Jagar.
I have underestimated you, that is clear. You not only have defeated the useless creatures I have sent against you, but managed to survive encounters that in and of itself could be the stuff of legends. It is sad that I am forced to destroy you. Prepare, for my minions arrive.
It's funny, the further along we go, the more he seems to like us, which makes me like him a bit more. I almost feel like if the game could be a bit more nuanced with its characterization and stuff, maybe they could give us a really nuanced reason why he took the Emperor and why he wants to instate himself and make him a bit more sympathetic. That would actually be very in line with later Elder Scrolls.
It has become a habit, congratulating you on your success. Still, there are 3 pieces left, and what guards them only the Divine Lady may know. I have spent many a day searching the ethereal plane for some clue at the location of the 6th piece of the staff. This is what I have found. The piece was sent to a place called the Crypt of Hearts. I have no clue as to the location of such a place. The price for the little knowledge I have was exacting. Still, only 3 provinces remain that can hold these last pieces. It can only lie in one of these. Good luck.
Rhea, as always, struggling with the voice acting as it scrolls to the next page. So she mentioned the Divine Lady there. There's not much more to it in Arena yet, but later, when we start learning in the later games about these divines, I'm pretty sure they're referencing one specific one called Dibella, but I guess we'll get there later. Now, here's something interesting. My objective now is obviously to go into the town to speak to people, ask about this place, and then they'll point me to the province. Now, I wanted to do that, but it's night, so no one's going to be spawning and walking around the town. So I wanted to rest. But here's a weird thing. I'm almost 100% confident that the game's bugged here. And here I'm using the Mark of Light outdoors, which is kind of a rare thing. Whenever I try to rest in order to get the time to move, even just a little bit, like here I'm trying 5 hours, it instantly tells me there's enemies nearby again. Now, I'm not sure if maybe something spawned inside the city wall behind me and there's no way that I can actually deal with that. So when I try to rest, he patrols close and then it instantly re-triggers enemies nearby and spawns other stuff. But it seems like even if I move away from the city here, stuff is just attacking me. And I'll remind you, last episode, in this region of the world, not this city, but in this region of the world, when I did do one of these rests, I got instantly blown up by fireballs, like 100 to 0'd. So I'm kind of stressed out and anxious just doing this here. And no matter how often I try, I mean, I am assuming it's bad luck, maybe? But this is basically infinite spawning, and as much as I wanted to go into the town, see a little bit of its layout, I mean, it seemed quite nice. We are in the, I think we're in what they call mid-year right now. So it's very nice and very sunny and it's a beautiful area of the world. And yet I just can't get in there really during the day. So I'm just going to give up basically. But I'm wondering if any of you guys actually played Arena while watching this, whether you experienced something. Look at this. This is an iron golem ambushing me now. I mean, that's to be expected. As I mentioned earlier, whenever you level up, the quality of the random encounters that might trigger also improves. So, yeah, it's to be expected that eventually these things will start attacking me. But, and handily, we deal them quite well, but it's obviously not ideal. Anyway, so I'm just gonna skip ahead here. We're not gonna speak to the first NPC who will tell us where the rumors have been sourced from. They're gonna tell us to go to High Rock. So that's our objective now. Next region is High Rock. Now, this one's really fascinating to me. One, because I've never really experienced it before. But 2, because if you look at this city on the very bottom left, it's called Daggerfall. Now, Daggerfall As you guys know, each Elder Scrolls game, except the third one, Oblivion, they're all named after a location in Tamriel. Well, the second game, the game we'll be moving on to very soon, is Daggerfall. And here they say, we've arrived at the city-state of Daggerfall. It greets those in search for rest and hopes to challenge those who search for glory. Pretty sure there's a typo there. I'm pretty sure that should be hopes to challenge those who search for glory. But so this is going to become a really significant location in the second game. And I know in broad strokes generally what happens there, but because at this point I've never played the second game, it's all kind of mysterious and curious to me, and I'm really excited about it. In fact, there's probably not too many episodes left in this particular series, so we could be here dealing with this sooner than you think. But so this lady says that there may be something in Kamloon. So now we've got our specific little town that we want to go to. But I did want to spend a bit of time here, and I figured I'd go to an armor shop. You guys haven't really seen me in armor shops much lately, because what I've been doing is off-screen going to billions of armor shops all around Tamriel to go fully to the next tier. I'm not going to do that this episode, but what we probably will find is, I mean, by the end of today, we'll have 6 of 8. There's only 2 remaining, and maybe that's a really appropriate point for us to fully deck out in ebony stuff. So our full ebony armor and stuff like that going forward. In fact, some of the dungeons you're going to see today, I think are supposed to be quite difficult, and we're really progressing up there now, so I'm going to start wanting that gear. Anyway, yeah, so Kamloon, this is the place that we're going for arenas purposes. And there's something really fun about this as well that totally breaks the format they'd established elsewhere. Here they're saying Kamloon is the jewel of the West and it greets wary travelers. There's a typo again, not travelers, wary traveler, and bids these welcome to our city-state. There's loads of typos in today's episode, seriously. Such a shame. Some of it's main quest stuff as well. I mean, that kind of stuff is sort of randomly, dynamically generated, so I can forgive it a little bit, but there's main quest dialogue in a moment that has typos. Not a first for Arena, but hey. So once again here we're in random encounters, but it won't bug on me. I can actually wait for it to be day. I was very concerned it wouldn't work. So going back to what I was saying, there is something of a format shift up. Normally we're going to the Mages Guild every single time, but this time we actually won't be. We'll be going to probably the least used building in the entire game. Now, I have already shown it off in the series to you guys when we very first started back in Hammerfall. I showed you guys this place, but we actually get to go there for the main story now, and this lady will explain. We can ask, where is the Crypt of Hearts? And she says, the priests of the Brotherhood of Seth were ever a secretive lot, one that did not share information lightly. Still, I think that if you wish to uncover the crypt, you must begin your search at the temple itself. So yeah, this time we do not ask for the Mages Guild. We ask for temples, and these are all the temples. There's 5 of them in this one town. And we just want the Brotherhood of Seth. There's the Brotherhood of War here, and, you know, whatever else that they had generated for this town. I want to be clear as well. It seems that all the location names were, like, dynamically generated when the game was in development. But they are fixed as far as we as the users are concerned. Like, if you come to this town, you come to Kamloon at any time, it will always be the same buildings and stuff. It's just that on Bethesda's end, they had, like, basically generated them from a list. So yeah, I'm looking around for it right now. This looks like a cool little building. Obviously it's not a temple, but the fact that the door is locked means that we're still kind of quiet in the town at the moment. That's because it's only like 6 AM. And it's funny because I think I'm right at the time of sun rising. You're going to hear the music in the background in this town change as I'm traveling. I think that's because it hits 7 AM. But anyway, so yeah, this guy looked like a priesty dude, so I thought maybe the temple's nearby. We're obviously playing the little mini game where we have to ask people for the direction, and then eventually we'll be closer to it. But yeah, I did show off a temple before. If you remember, temples give you the ability to cure any diseases you might be under, which obviously is a bit silly when we've got cure disease potions and we can just check ourselves to make sure that we don't get inflicted with them very much. Also, rats aren't in particular abundance, and many disease-inflicting creatures are rats, basically. So they have that whole beautiful disease system, as I showed you from the manual before, but it's just not a big part of the game. I wonder if the devs realized it would be tedious or something, but the result is you don't really go to temples much, particularly not to cure diseases. They also will heal you, but again, like, you can rest to heal, you can stay at an inn to heal, you can drink potions to heal, you can cast magic to heal, so you don't really need that. And then finally, they will bless you. The blessing is you donate money and they'll give you like an increase to your hit chance, remember? But all of that's a bit lame. So here we go, here's the temple, with that gross-looking pipe coming out of the wall on the outer wall texture. It says, you enter the Brotherhood of Seth, thankful the respite from the harsh summer sun and cold winds. You can hear chanting in the distance. And I do love these. I mean, they're unique-looking places, and they're really ominous. The music is great in these areas. And forever when I'm playing Arena, and I'm listening to, you know, these early mid-90s RPGs, it just makes me think of a game that came out way later but had a similar kind of soundscape, and that's RuneScape, my very first MMO ever. And I never feel more RuneScapey than being in a temple in this game. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so we get this guy who has a ton of dialogue. So let's get into it. He says, I welcome you to the Brotherhood of Seth, Tarlin. Word of your inquiries concerning the Crypt of Hearts has come to my attention. I am Hafas Varn, senior brother in this temple. I would gladly help you on your quest, but dire times are upon us. One of our brethren, Barnabas of Tethys, went mad, raving that the Emperor had been captured. He insisted that only something called the Staff of Chaos could free the Emperor from his fate. Naturally, we did not believe him. He was ever one live in fanciful dreams. I think they mean who lived in fanciful dreams. Instead, we tried our best to soothe him, talking to him of brighter, happier things. We thought he was fine. Yesterday afternoon, he went berserk and killed Brother Martinus, then fled from the temple. With him, he took a scroll that he claimed would help him find a piece of the missing so-called Staff of Chaos. I fear he has gone to the mines of Khuras, the place where he claimed the map said he would find his first clue. What he doesn't realize is that the map he carries was originally found in the mines. Part of the inscription on the map is a code that we plan to use to decipher the location of the Crypt of Hearts from the Elder Scrolls. Without that, so again, they're going on this like long explanation to why this contrivance exists, that we need to go to this mini extra dungeon. By the way, Brother Martinus that died, Brother Martin, that's kind of a funny name considering a character later. It was if only there was a way of recovering the map, but the mines of Khuras are too dangerous. Poor Brother Barnabas has surely perished by now. I will tell you how to get to the mines. There you can search for the map, or Brother Barnabas. I think it unlikely that you will find either, but there is always a slim chance. If you return to me with the map, I will tell you the location of the Crypt of Hearts. It's a fool's errand, but such is your only hope. Do you wish to search the mines? And again, we get the useless yes, no that we can click. It's really weird. I love the idea of actually finishing this and finding the map on a guy's body. You know how we found that random body last episode? I doubt they'll do that. I'd thought you'd decline. Faced with the danger of the mines, lava pools and fire pits are scattered throughout its scorched corridors. You must find something to protect you from the heat of its fires. Hopefully you will find both Brother Barnabas and the map. No matter, the mines of Khuras are located near Kamloon. If you find the map, return here to the Brotherhood of Seth, and I will tell you the location of the Crypt of Hearts. Brother Halfus gestures, and you see on your map that the location magically appears. So there you have it, and again they do that big wall of text after you accept the quest, which sometimes they don't really do, and it feels like, I don't know, they just went out of their way a little bit for at least the dialogue and stuff on this one. And yeah, he even gives you a hint as to the perils we'll be facing, fire pits and so on. This dungeon you really want to have resist fire. And I'm actually going to cut the video in a second because, as you remember from last episode, I don't have resist fire. And yet here I am going straight to the mines, which is probably a little bit of a mistake. You see that? Yeah, just as he said, they're quite nearby to where we are already. It's only going to take us a couple of days to get there. The other thing you might really like for this dungeon is levitation capability, which obviously we've already got. I don't know, maybe my boots are going to run out of charge soon. I doubt it. I hope not. But that will really help you anywhere you find lava, which in these last couple of dungeons, there's going to be tons of. I realised Bethesda thought lava was a super cool endgame thing, and you find it everywhere. So like I said, this will be a challenge. Let me just go buy these potions, and we'll get on with it. Okay, so the mines of Khuras. The sulfuric air of the mines hits you like a wall of heat, bringing tears to your eyes. Through the shimmering air, you see numerous lava flows and pits that lie scattered about the scorched ground, treacherous and deadly. Now, you know how we went to the Brotherhood and there was loads of dialogue? It seems that even in the dungeon, there's also loads of dialogue, and guess what? Just as I said, the body you surmise is that of an unlucky adventurer, and then we get the bug where the dialogue goes away, so let's go back and pause that. The body is that of an unlucky adventurer. The flesh seems torn and perhaps chewed. Scrawled in blood on the floor next to it are the letters S-W. So, just as I said, there are dead explorers, and in fact, we will find Brother Barnabas as well. There's actually loads of detail in here, like an incredible amount. In fact, I think as far as ambient dialogue and stuff goes, this is the dungeon with the most of it, and it's a bloody cool tile set as well, at least up here. They do a weird thing where it's a 2-floor dungeon, and the upper floor is full of lava, and the lower floor is not. It really feels a bit reversed to me there, Bethesda, but hey, we're in a magic world. Maybe these are magic lava pools. And there you'll see that there was actually a double jump, right? I could have maybe made that jump 2 squares across lava, but it would have been really risky and a pain. So instead I used levitate, immediately working out for us. Now that first clue told us go southwest, and it's the western route. You could have gone east as well. East wouldn't have had a double jump. West had the double jump, which you want a tool to get over. So I really liked that. I thought that worked super well. The dungeon itself, the 2 floors are enormous. Like truly vast. Like unnecessarily massive. And if there's ever been a dungeon, and a few of them have got me feeling a little bit this way, if there's ever a dungeon where it feels like, wow, there's a lot of wasted space, this is the main contender for that, I think, for now, because they're so big, and honestly getting to the end of the floor or the artifact itself is not a challenge in either situation, because there's no like big looping paths you have to go through, and further, it blatantly tells you which direction to go in this case southwest, and we'll see a direction on the next floor as well. And I don't like that. If you guys know me, the number one thing I really don't like or would strive to eliminate as a designer is waste. I really don't like waste in games. Stuff that has potential, but that potential isn't realized because other systems undermine it or whatever. And players always, you know, aim for their own efficiency and their own speed of progress rather than their own enjoyment. So if you can skip a ton of the dungeon, which is what is the case here on both floors, then people will, and they'll miss out, I think. Especially in the age of the internet as it now is, where you can just look at a guide and just immediately find your way through. But, you know, that wasn't relevant in the 90s, so I'm not going to really criticize the game for that. Here it says, around you lie pools of seething lava. We get the bug again. It's because when you emulate the game, the cycle speed is too fast for it, and some messages you can get back, others you can't. It said the lava is welling up from deep below and releasing their gases into the air, which seems tainted but breathable. I love these descriptions. They're so well done. You know how at the start of the series, I read you guys those dev quotes and ambitions of Bethesda to basically make a video game version of D&D, right? That was like their main goal. I really get a sense of that whenever I get to read all of these little notes around. So while the navigation may be pretty simple here, levitation pending. I mean, not everyone's necessarily going to have that, especially if you haven't found the right shop or just been lucky or identified the magic item or you're not a caster and so on. The other thing that makes this place worthwhile and, you know, a progression beyond the other dungeons is the enemies. Like this iron golem we're fighting here. We're going to be fighting island golems and stone golems. So we saw one in the bestiary last episode and he really wasn't a challenge. In this area, they're actually a lot harder to kill. They don't seem to throw rocks at you. They seem to throw like lightning-y orbs. You remember the spell we picked up? The light spell, but it was actually, you know, a projectile? They seem to be casting that on me, which I think resist shock should help, even though the bestiary described them as throwing rocks. So, I don't know. But here you go. You just kind of head southwest, and we see a shaft that leads down to another level. I've honestly skipped so much of that floor, it's unreal. We enter the bowels of the mines, aware that all around us lie creatures that have come to call this forsaken place their home. I say I've skipped a ton of stuff, but as far as I know, there's not much dialogue on the upper floor beyond, you know, the direct route to the next level. However, for this floor, I actually think I might have missed something, and we'll see. They talk about there being an absence of light making you feel forlorn. That message comes up over and over and over again as we explore here. But something really amazing happens on this. You know how the green squares represent ways up, the blue squares represent ways down on the map. As you can see, that there's a green square here. You get lots of red squares here as now on this floor as well. Now, red squares usually mark like the artifact or the piece of the Staff of Chaos or whatever. This floor, if you look at a map online, has a ton of red squares. Here, check this out. This is a fully explored floor 2 of the Mines of Khuras. Look at all these red squares. Now, each of those, I think, is extra lore and story and dialogue. Or it's repeats. I guess we'll find out in a second. Also of note on this floor, if you look down at the bottom, these weird tunnels, That's actually spelling the word Black Marsh, which is a region we haven't visited yet, but in like mirror reverse. So I don't know why that's there, why it says Black Marsh in this dungeon. We will go to Black Marsh by the end of the adventure, but I can't see how this mine is tied to that in any way. Maybe the idea that the denizens of Black Marsh were digging these tunnels out is a cool one. There are Argonians that live there, and I do know them primarily as an enslaved species from some of the later games. So the idea that they were working these mines and, cryptically carved these tunnels in this way is fun, but again, I don't think any of that really comes from Bethesda. Right, so a stone golem. Now, the first one I encountered, I wanted to see what does it really do at range, so I just kind of back up from him, and yeah, you see that he does like these lightning projectiles, which honestly scare me more. So I go for resist shock, but these scare me more. Not that they'll kill me or give me a game over. I mean, we're right near the entrance of the floor, which is where I last saved. But actually, they're going to bug my audio. Because I don't know what it was that did it in the last episode. And it was honestly so scary and ear-splitting. Don't worry, if it ever does happen in a video, I will warn you guys or just cut it out completely. But yeah, he goes down fairly comfortably. So that lulls me into a false sense of security, let me say, when it comes to these things. Because around one of these next corners, we'll be fighting a few more. So, as for my destination right now, I'm generally heading towards those Black Marsh tunnels by trying to go south as much as possible. But because I had levitation on, that meant I couldn't go through a few trenches. I believe if you actually go into the trenches, you're going to be more likely to get there quicker. But I'm worming all over the place. You notice I'm hardly opening the map. I'm just trying to get south until I realize I can't go south anymore. Then we'll try to orientate ourselves a little bit better. Leads me into this corridor here, a chest, a few wraiths attacking me. It seems that certain regions of this dungeon have collectives or groupings of certain enemies. So like there's wraiths here. We'll find an area swarming with hellhounds later. We find an area with lots of stone elementals. And maybe that's how they dealt with it. There's a key, a door with a key, and check it out. I think I'm done here. I think I found it, right? But it says this instead. On the floor here, you find a journal. The book seems torn and tattered with only one page still legible. The dreams continue. I know not their import, but something must be done, else the Empire will surely perish. Perhaps I am mad, I know not. I will begin searching for the map in the southeast section of these mines, and then continue west along the southern wall. I pray that I'm not too late. Obviously, this journal was penned by Brother Barnabas. And so this is one of the red squares. And what I'm not sure about is whether all the red squares have this same dialogue, because I can imagine that they all do. Do you remember how on the previous floor we were told to go southwest? Well, this is telling us to go southeast. But if you look at where I am, I'm in kind of a weird place here. And on the map I showed you earlier, there's red squares everywhere. So I'm guessing that there's just lots of pages of his journal around and they all say to go to the southeast. It would be an amazing coincidence for me to have stumbled onto the one that directs you to the actual place. So I can't imagine that they've done that. But I still respect it, even if it's all just duplicate dialogue. I really like that there's all these different areas of the dungeon that lead you there. And, you know, that's a little insight maybe into Bethesda's original intent and design for how the game was meant to be played. I think a lot of gamers nowadays, especially with the proliferation of information on the internet, we view games as like these things, and I know I certainly do this, that like they need to be 100%ed. They need to be fully explored. They need to be immaculately gone over with a fine tooth comb. But that isn't necessarily the prevailing philosophy and mindset behind how people are going to consume the games. And I wonder whether Bethesda, I was talking about wastage on the upper floor, whether they didn't consider it wastage at all because they know that, you know, some players will accidentally wander into the northwest, some will wander into the northeast, and across, you know, a broad demographic and a broad grouping of humans playing the product, it has all been experienced. It's just not one person experienced the full thing. And so if that's their mindset and they're happy with that and they like that, then it would make sense for them to just drop in lots of, you know, filter in these diaries that are all the same dialogue all over the dungeon because, you know, they're hoping to capture everyone no matter what direction you went in, and they don't care that it's repeated because they're not expecting you to find them all. That's not the expectation of how players consumed games. And maybe the expectation of how we consume games has changed over the past 25 years, right? So I thought that was all really interesting. And obviously you've got a pretty cool story there as well. He's just like us. You know, if we were to die randomly in this dungeon, would we be looked at as anything else other than just a mad guy that was following dreams? I guess Rhea doesn't believe in only us. She's been sending lots of people out. And maybe that explains a few of the bodies we found in other areas. I like the idea that she's being a little bit underhanded like that, but she wants to stroke our ego, so she makes us seem like we're the be-all and end-all. Okay, so 2 rock golems here. And I can hardly see the one behind, so I think I'm fine. Nope.
You were a fool to confront me, and now have paid the ultimate price. Even now.
I get destroyed! Oh my god, so yeah, I guess they are kind of scary. I think what happened is the one in the back, because there was that little range gap there, he was able to keep casting his spell. I think if I'm in melee, they don't cast the spell so much, or I don't seem to take so much damage. But I was essentially getting sieged from the back while getting hit in the front. And yeah, I don't know, maybe just a bad roll on the potion, but they did so much damage. So yeah, don't try to 2v1 those things. That's my warning to you guys. Now, the game over, I have to be honest, kind of upset me, because I thought I was getting really close. We were basically towards those black marsh tunnels before. But on this attempt, I just go in a different route. Once again, I still have levitation from the lava pools upstairs, so I can't go into any of the trenches, which I do think probably is a quicker way through. But I just kind of wander, and do you know what? I actually think that this is the quicker route through the dungeon. We obviously don't get that chest. We miss out on a few kills and a bit of experience. I still haven't leveled up. This is the 3rd episode in a row where I haven't leveled, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of a relief as well, because when I level up, if I get a bad roll, right, if I only get like 3 attributes instead of the full 6, I'm always like, oh, should I reload to get a better roll? If you guys remember in one of the earlier episodes, I pointed out how massive of a stat difference there is based on whether you get lucky on levels ups or not. But I haven't had to deal with that stress recently because I just haven't been leveling at all. I mean, we seem to be okay. Very strong combo for our class and race here. That said, I am getting sieged by fire damage from behind, so it's a good thing I bought those fire potions. Navigating all of my consumables is becoming a bit of a problem. And even worse, I'm falling down this pitfall right as levitation ran out at the worst possible time. But yeah, we're going to come down to the south, and what you'll find here really is I'm pretty much right next to the Black Marsh tunnels now. As far as actually playing these tunnels, they feel really peculiar and just not fun to experience because, you know, they're just random dead ends, and it all feels so cluttered and closed in. I think that really worked quite well on the floor above. So here you can see I actually need to turn around and go south, and you can just see the outline of the Black Marsh tunnels below. I think the cluttered approach to the way these places looked really good above, especially with those wooden beams framing certain doorways. That was awesome. But in here, it just feels a bit, I don't know, work in progress-y and a bit rubbish. This guy scares me a little bit, but turns out we're more than capable to deal with him. I never mentioned as well, between the 2 episodes, and here's the Hellhound area, between the 2 episodes, I did actually find an ebony greatsword, or ebony longsword, sorry, on my way out of the last dungeon, which I did snag for myself. It was in that fire demon room in the bestiary, which obviously I had to walk back through in a reverse direction, and there were 3 treasure piles there. So here, look, these are the Black Marsh corridors. And I may start using that, if I'm not already, because I could actually combo that with a shield. And here, check it out. This is it. This is the whole dungeon. There you go. You just watched the whole thing. I just kind of wandered in here and found it. That's his body. You can't interact with it anyway, but it is a pretty unique object, so worth looking at. It says you found the map fragment only slightly discolored by Brother Barnabas's blood. With the help of the Brotherhood of Seth, you may succeed where Barnabas failed. So it looks like he got here, he managed to get the fragment, but died shortly after. And there is a little bit more ambient dialogue that will rush off the screen really fast if you're playing this on DOSBox. But I will pause the video so we can enjoy. It says this body is obviously that of Brother Barnabas. His body has been ravaged by the denizens of this Underdark, and his face etched into a mask of pure horror. I think they've kind of messed up the typing there a little bit as well, haven't they? Just beyond the body, you can see what looks to be a map. So it's like it expected me to enter the room from this other angle, but there is no other angle. So what? Did they think I was going to pass wall? Am I looking too deeply in? Like, in what world would I read that before the rest? But yeah, I'm just happy to see some kind of new environmental unique object, right? Because they are very few and far between in Arena. I guess with memory issues and so forth. Actually, that was something I never mentioned about the Crystal Tower that I thought was so cool. In the best area, they have so many enemy varieties, and the game has no problem, like, you know, holding them all in RAM or whatever. I wonder if that was a particularly laggy flaw for people back in the day, or not a problem at all. But there you have it. So that's the Mines of Khuras. All I have to do is just walk out now. You guys have already seen the route, and you've actually seen how simple it is to get to the objective, despite the fact, I have to say again, this place is gargantuan, like huge, and yet none of it really needs to be seen. So I'll see you guys back out of the town. Well, I've taken the liberty to cut us right to Brotherhood. So the god who protects the Brotherhood of Seth must be great indeed, for it is as bright as the summer day, yet comfortable as a shadowy place within. A pleasant floral odour of incense fills the air. I love that description of how nice and pleasant this place is. The idea that they have a specific gods, I don't think we should expect that to be really expanded on. If anything, you know, the later games keep the idea of a mages guild and they expand on a lot of stuff, but in terms of the temples being like loads of different collections of people with different beliefs, a lot of that dies down and we sort of boil into much more limited worldviews. But hey, anyway, so he says, unbelievable! I did not credit you with the tenacity you obviously possess. For my part, I gave my word to tell you the location of the Crypt of Hearts, and gods do not suffer men whose words carry no weight. Hold a moment while I read the map. So, Brother Hafas takes the map you recovered and goes into another room. Almost an hour goes by before he returns. He nods knowingly to you and then asks for your map, quickly sketching the location of the Crypt of Hearts. I also decided to heal here, because, hey, how often do we get to heal? It's weird because you can price it up, right? Like, that cost me $2.25 to heal at the temple, and you could totally compare that to the price of a potion of Heal True. I get that there's randomness with the potions of Heal True, and that's obviously going to have an impact on the cost, but with a number of people who just basically save scum their way through the game now, it's again another reason why the temples are a little bit neglected. Anyway, so here we have it. The next piece of the Staff of Chaos is within the Crypt of Hearts. The chill of death seems to touch your heart as you gaze upon the stone walls of the Crypt of Hearts. Above the entrance stands a grinning skull, a warning to those who would traverse the halls of the dead. You can sense the sixth piece of the Staff of Chaos somewhere below. And you get a really nice creepy image this time. The art before we enter these places remains one of my favourite things about the game. You stand in the Crypt of Hearts, a world of darkness and death. The air is still, decayed with age, and the smell of sulphur pervades the air. A hot wind seems to be coming from around the corner to the south. So there are very specific stage directions there for this very first movement, right? We go around a corner to the south at the beginning, and there you have it. I get the feeling that the designer that wrote all the text for these did it after the levels were built. So here we get an amazing mural, a really cool image that I click and actually turns out to be a door. But let's check this out here, because it's showing a dragon, a sun, and two moons. Now, I mentioned very briefly several episodes ago, but Tamriel has two moons, and in fact there's a ton of lore about those moons and how they might have been created or what they might represent and how they tie into the celestial entities of this world. The two moons have always been one of the more fascinating things about this game, and one of the things that captures me more, probably because even as far back as Morrowind, the most recent 3 games, which represents many years of gaming really, they've been very good at rendering skyboxes and making them look really pretty, and most of my profound memories are like looking up at the stars, especially when you consider how sophisticated and awesome looking a lot of like weather mods and things have been over the years. It tends to mean I would find myself looking at the starry night sky of Tamriel, and there would be the two moons. And they've written a lot about them, so they're just very, very cool, and it's amazing for me to see, even here, way back as early as Arena. You know, that is prevalent, that's there. We don't really get to enjoy it, but there you get that mural. The other thing about the mural is it does feature a big-ass dragon. Once again, showing dragons were in this franchise for many years. I remember when Skyrim came out, which was a very dragon-centric game, people complaining that dragons were kind of too much of a new step and that they didn't like it very much, but that's obvious foolishness seeing this here in Arena. And even the mural itself is actually really reminiscent to me of some of those plaques you see in Skyrim. Like, if you go back and watch the Skyrim trailer, you've got kind of this big stone wall that depicts a dragon there. I don't know whether it's a direct reference. I'd love to believe it that it was. But yeah, you get to see that right here at the start of Arena. How that ties into the Crypt of Hearts, which seems to be like a necromancy-themed dungeon. And so far, they've done quite well with it, right? Like, lots of skeletons and sort of spooky torture chambers and stuff we've been in. It is also very dark. You're not getting so much of that because I'm using the Mark of Light, but we are fighting mostly undead here. I mean, to tell you the truth, most dungeons now seem to open with a couple of skeletons and then get really hard later. But I mean, come on, this one is definitely meant to be a necromantic crypt. And that does mean we are going to see pretty much all varieties of undead on this one, including ghouls, I think. So, right now you can see we're in a little cubbyhole area where there was this dead body. Also, by the way, while we're on float, have you noticed how we can actually see through the keyholes of the doors really well? Like, it actually renders the room behind. But what was probably most interesting about this area was, as we were entering, they did give us this little bit of flavor text here, which says, on the other side of the lava run are temple walls with inscriptions that seem to twist your very thoughts towards baser instincts. The smell of death lingers in the hot air, and drums can be heard in the distance. So that, again, is one of those rare situations where they reference the drums in the distance, which is actually a sound effect you've been hearing over and over and over in the game. I want to apologize again. A few of you guys have commented about this, but the audio levels in Arena are all over the place. Like, the drums will sound really loud, and then the rest of the ambient volumes will sound really quiet, and then you'll go into a tavern and it will blow your eardrums out. It's ridiculous. But those drums are really persistent the whole way through the game. And yeah, sometimes they do mention that, you know, that is diegetic sound. That is stuff we are actually hearing in-game, in-universe. It's not just sort of layered on top for effect. In any case, progressing through this dungeon really wasn't too tricky. Once again, it's a large floor. There's going to be 4 that we go through. The bottom 3 are much smaller than this one. And the main thing about this one that's very cool is, once again, we get an opportunity to see a vampire. He has special text and stuff. It's the closest thing I think that they've done to correctly implementing a boss in the game. We'll see it in a second, but you'll recall that when we're in the Crystal Tower, we did also interact with a new creature, the Fire Demon, or Daemon, I guess. And I never read you the manual lore about them, which is something we had been doing. So let's throw it up and see what they say officially. Again, you have to go to the manual for any additional information on this one. And oh god, that reminds me, we didn't read about the race of High Rock, which is the Bretons, so we can deal with that in the manual as well in a second. So anyway, yes, this room also completely messing me up with these hellhounds. Actually really cool. You walk in and then it spawns them on the platforms surrounding you. Quite often the hellhounds spawn in such a way that one will attack the other and they'll friendly fire themselves. But no, not in this room. They actually almost killed me. So the arena calls them daemons, like they're a whole category. It really is only the one creature. It says these creatures are from the netherworld, often gating themselves into our plane of existence on some errand of their choosing. They are dangerous foes, highly intelligent, completely chaotic in nature, and powerful in the ways of magic. Often, they are very resistant to fire and are subject to attack only by special weapons. They are very dangerous to face, and they also have the ability to see invisible creatures. Now, invisibility is a topic we will be going into today, but I'll save that from one of the later floors. Probably the most interesting thing about this description and this creature so far is how right now they're basically just, you know, demons as we would know from traditional fantasy. But over the later games, you're going to see that concept get refined into a very specific idea of the Daedra. And, well, you can kind of see the Fire Daemon from Arena as a bit of a precursor to that, I suppose. As for the Bretons of High Rock, here's what the manual has to say. Now, I've got to admit, it's quite fitting to me. I almost forgot to talk about these in today's episode, because the Bretons feel like the most forgettable Elder Scrolls race to me. They're a race I never play. They're a race I'm like almost not interested in at all. They're just kind of like people in a way, but this is a franchise where there's already quite a lot of variance on basic humanoids. You know, you've got Red Guards and you've got Imperials and you've got Nords. Well, there's the Bretons too. So here's the Bretons. They hail from the province of High Rock. They are a tall, dark-haired people. Bretons are highly intelligent and willful people and have an outgoing personality. It is said that the Bretons are weaned on magic, for it seems to suffuse their very being. As a result, Bretons take half damage from any magic-based attacks and no damage on a successful save. They are excellent in the arcane arts. Actually pretty useful to play in Arena, since you probably noticed most of the dangerous stuff, like with these Hellhounds a second ago, is magic, like those fireballs or the magic shock projectiles and so on. Pretty cool and useful. I don't know, they're just forgettable to me. They're like Nords, but magic Nords. And I suppose on paper that sounds cool. I'm just not familiar enough with the lore right now to be really deeply into it. There is, of course, going to be the little bit of extra information at character creation, and I'll draw your attention to the background art, which is really nice on this one. Some kind of idyllic, these timber-bordered buildings, and this cool-looking, I guess, magical waystone rock on the side. They say, "Know ye this, thy race is descended from the ancient druids of Galen, quick-witted and strong in the mystical arts. Thy folk are crafty and intelligent, a learned people who use their gifts to guide others to enlightenment." You know, reading about them here in Arena makes me kind of excited to learn more as we go forward. Maybe we should focus on Bretons as we continue. Maybe you guys can make a case for me as to these guys being awesome in the comments. I don't know. I don't think I've ever done a playthrough as a Breton in any game ever. But there you have it. That's High Rock. Killing the Hellhounds leveled me up, so it finally happened. It's taken a long time. First I thought I'd try strength, but it turns out if I dumped all the points into agility, we would get another +1 to hit and another +1 to defend, which you can see now, I hope, at this point in the game, just how useful that is, because it's always paying dividends to you. Every single time I spam the mouse to attack something, it's rolling that dice, and if you're getting a +1 every time, that's huge. That's why if you go back to episode 1, right there on character creation, you're going to see me make sure I'm at least +2 to on hit, because it's just going to keep working for you the whole way through the game. And frankly, swinging and nothing connecting is one of the more frustrating things about all three of the first games and this style of RPG. It's just nice to mitigate that, you know. I think so many of us are used to like responsive, feedback-based action gaming now, that a lot of that like missing dice roll stuff, people are just kind of very cold to. We're going to see I do a lot of stuff when we get to Morrowind to kind of mitigate some of that too early game. Anyway, so we are coming up to the vampire in just a moment. Another cunning corridor where you'll notice it feels like places are empty, and they're very often doing that thing where they just blatantly spawn stuff in front of you. I think for some of the earlier stuff, they were more careful about making things appear to be organic where they came from. And at this point, they don't care so much about that. What they rather do is just provide some kind of challenge. So this area that I've managed to wander to, this is the vampire's crypt. We get a ghost outside and this door opens immediately. The ghost obviously isn't that interesting, but there you'll notice, just before I went to drink this potion, it said vampire is regenerating, and we can see a guy in there. There's an actual dude staring at us. As we walk right to the door, all this flavor text comes up that once again will scroll off too fast, so we have to pause. You stand near a mausoleum. A runic inscription reads, "Sir Calanthere, may he at last rest. The years seem to have rusted this iron gate shut. Even the ground is undisturbed. Your footfalls kick small clouds of dust that hangs in the still, dead air." These are so descriptive and creepy. I really like them. So the vampire fight himself, as I mentioned before, the vampire is the second most deadly thing in the game in terms of its capability to kill you, how tanky it is, the tier of gear you need to be able to fight it. Most people only consider one other creature to be stronger than this thing, that's the Lich. So here's my fight against the first one. A little bit like the stone golems. I imagine if there were multiple, I'd be completely screwed here. I think I get quite a good few hits in. I love how tall he is, and I love how completely scary his face seems while he's in a strike animation. You know, the eyes go red, you see the fangs a little bit, and there's a ton of little subtle movement all the way down his cloak. I just think he looks badass. And in fact, if there's anything I think, from my standing right now, the Elder Scrolls does really well, it's vampire stuff. Maybe I just have this specific gap, but it strikes me most fantasy RPGs I play or read about or engage with in any way don't do vampire stuff much. Yet Elder Scrolls has always been in there thick with it, and really cool vampires too, not like weird modern twists like you see in a lot of books and films and other media. Just cool, classic, cloaked vampires, and hell, in some of the games you can actually become one. And one of the highlights of Oblivion for me is all the vampire stuff in that game. So I can't wait to get there. But there you go. So managed to deal with him. That was ultimately an optional room with a body with randomly generated loot that obviously we're not incentivized to really go for. So whatever. If you're wondering my general direction, it's about northwest. Another room amazing for the boots of levitation here. I'll probably have to refresh these between the next 2 episodes. As we go up to the final tier of gear, I'll, you know, make sure I've got charge. And it spawns these 2 hellhounds.
You were a fool to confront me, and now...
And I'm a fool to confront them! Game over, super fast. I mean, that really does show the threat of the hellhounds if you don't have fire resist up. We just killed a freaking vampire. We weren't that low on health. Now, the trick here is that room is actually spawning hellhounds behind me as I'm going, and I didn't notice. And now, on my second adventure through, it's actually going to take me ages to find that room again, so we're going to cut ahead. I usually try not to do this, because I don't want you guys losing your sense of where we are in the dungeon, but I'm just going to take us straight back to that same room. And here you'll see this time I didn't fight the vampire. It has the regenerating effect on it. A little bit of tooltip text comes up, probably for 1 frame in the video. So they're a bit like trolls in that way. And I try a little bit of a different technique this time, where I do the sideways strafe movement, which actually lets you move a lot quicker. And I hug the left wall a little bit in there, so that they can't shoot me with projectiles and they ball on the corner. Classic, like, line of sighting. And then I just sort of cleave them down, and I got through very, 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 very comfortably. So, really, there's not too much more to this floor in terms of actually just progressing. Some spiders here at the end, so once again, making sure you've got just a couple of potions of free action. It is really weird, honestly, that you could be here. It's been a while since we fought any spiders. Suddenly you get paralyzed in that way, and it's like game over. It's such a brutal mechanic. Always have free action on you, always, because you will regret it at some point, like I would have there. I cannot tell you how frustrating that would have had to have been to progress all the way through this floor again. You stand near the stairs leading down further into this crypt of the dead. A cold air gusts from the opening, bringing with it the smell of decaying flesh. So lovely. We get another nice description. Move into floor 2. Which, in terms of gameplay, is not that interesting. In terms of layout, kind of is. This is a small floor, but only because it's just a couple of rooms, and all the rooms are comparatively really quite big. You know, you've not got anything like the Black Marsh corridors in here. You've just got these big open hallways like this, and a lot of them are kind of empty. Yes, this one has that trick where you walk over to the body, it will spawn some spiders behind you, but generally there's not much to do. Like, this is just a big empty room, and it's one empty room, so it's not labyrinthine feeling at all. I like it, really, because it keeps it fresh. You know, they had so little tools to play with these environments and these dungeons. And yeah, I do find myself, as I'm going through them, thinking, oh, that's different. Is it different, really? Is this not similar to a floor of one of the many dungeons we've already done? Probably. But it does feel kind of different when you're here experiencing it. The other weird thing to note here is the only way forward is this hidden door. Now, we've obviously seen a lot of hidden doors, and they've lent into the hidden doors more and more as the game's gone along. But I would say in this dungeon, they go flat out with it. Like, there is only one route, like even remotely one route, and it has to be through there. If you didn't know about hidden doors at this point in the game, you would have a real tough time, because the opening of this floor is a big open hall leading into a big open room, and both of them have nothing. There is one tile you can click, and it's up there at the north. And then you kind of just float through all of these big open rooms here too. There's kind of a maze in this section filled with trenches. There's a little bit of lava featuring in some areas. There's a little fountain we'll see in the room here in a second, but not much going on, just some ghosts. I guess I could take the time to actually read you guys the vampire description. We did the fire demon, but here's what they say about vampires. With the exception of a lich, these are perhaps the most feared of all the creatures which prowl the land. Vampires are exceptionally intelligent, very strong, and very fast. They're immune to most normal weapons and regenerate lost health points. Silver weapons do double damage, however. Now, I never equipped a silver thing while I was fighting them before, but that's a cool little touch, I think. I thought that was more of a thing about werewolves, but hey. Because of their reclusive nature, not much else is known about these powerful undead lords. They're believed to have spellcasting ability, the ability to see invisible creatures, and the ability to command other creatures. They are a fearsome foe indeed. I don't know what the manual is talking about when it says they can command other creatures. If they had some kind of mechanic where they basically had summons or spawns, I think that would work really well. to represent that, but they don't, as far as I can see. And, you know, Arena's a limited game. There's not much they can do with the AI. Yeah, sometimes things will friendly fire one another, and I think that's pretty cool. But what does that mean? While things are around a vampire, they won't accidentally friendly fire each other. They'll always focus on you. I mean, they're going to focus on you. So, I'm not sure. Maybe we'll see some kind of mechanic happen when I fight one of these things in a group later, but I wouldn't hold my breath. A couple of homunculus here who seem really bugged with their animations. I'm not sure what that is, but I honestly only walked over to them because it looked like they'd never fight me. And that's probably one of the last fights we'll actually do before we find the stairway down. Back to the Crypt of Hearts. Guess what? It's in the MMO. Drumroll. Amazing. I mean, they really canvassed this game quite well, I think. I mean, good job to them. The MMO expands on this game's like lore for this place a lot. Right now, as far as spells are going in Arena, we don't really ban them into schools or anything, as far as I'm aware. But later in the upcoming games, we're going to hear that, you know, some spells are like destruction spells and some things are conjuration. Like, there's schools of magic. And this place here particularly was a school that taught destruction magic and sword fighting and alchemy and a few things like that. Don't really think it's relevant right now. I still don't know, guys, honestly, how I'm going to treat the MMO as far as all of this stuff's concerned, because it's just such a big proposition, and I don't really consider it one of the main games. But we'll come to that bridge at some point. So this big trench room, there are actually multiple exits to this room, and the only way down without pass walling is this one. So make sure you keep your eye out for it. And we get another stairway down. I was a little disappointed that there was no dialogue right here, but it's okay. The dialogue is actually just placed on the other side. You enter the third level of the Crypt of Hearts. The walls are covered with a sticky, foul-smelling, mucus-like substance. In the distance can be heard screams of agony. An especially cool and tortured message right there, I think. We're not actually going to find any allies. Don't expect that of Arena. You know, people that are in the midst of some pain and we save them and then they run out all happy or whatever. But yeah, it sets the ambience for this floor. This one, again, is fairly small. It's the bottom floor that will once again get quite large. I know I said that the bottom three were kind of small earlier, but really the last floor is going to be quite big here. And this is one of those fun designs where the exit is right near the entrance. It's slightly north of us. It's probably 4 blocks deep. It's like a very thick wall north of us. So if you were going to pass wall, remember that when I activate my bow, it will give me 3 wall deletions. I'm actually going to have to spend 2 charges if I want to pass wall right through here. I think that's the right way to do it. I think Arena probably would have endeavored to do that more often as well, if it had more space to play around with the level design. From somewhere comes the smell of sulfur, and along with it, a blast of hot air. They keep saying that. And this isn't even necessarily a fiery dungeon. Not really. I mean, the most lava probably is on this floor, but all of it's optional lava because it's not really the way forwards. Like I said at the start, you find pretty much all varieties of undead in this dungeon. There's some ghouls! Man, one of my favorite things about playing Arena at the moment, really, is fighting ghouls, just because they were so deadly. And every time we find them again now, and I just 2-shot them or something. It's so good. I don't know whether I went on this whole rant last time. I probably did partially. But I'm telling you guys, I cut out so much while we were at Stonekeep of me faffing about and struggling and dying to ghouls near that lake in Stonekeep, where you had to climb out of the water while the ghouls are attacking you and the disease keeps coming in. My god, feels really, really good to just be able to destroy them now. So yeah, some of the minimal lava here. This is kind of tricky. Again, another weird hidden door. This is the only way out of this floor. Once again, it's lots of big open rooms. The only way out, legitimately, there's no alternate, is you've got to float or jump over to this platform beyond the lava. And if you look very cunningly on your map here, there's this red square here. Oh my god, I mentioned red squares on the previous video as if they were all lore, but they were just doors, weren't they? Am I losing my mind? No, they're the same color, aren't they? Red is just a door, it's not a pickup. Oh, geez. Well, look, we figured it out, guys. I guess that they just marked lore information in that previous dungeon as doors for some reason. Right, well, consider that corrected. I'm sure I got a lot of comments about it. Little brain fart moment there yesterday, I guess. So, one more bit of flavor text. These stairs seem to lead deeper into the heart of crypts. Crypt of Hearts. The heart of crypts. Hey, both of those work, really. And now we're on floor 4. This is a brilliant floor. Do you remember what I said earlier about how they just kind of spawn stuff in front of you and they're just trying to get you to fight a lot of things? You stand in the tomb of heroes long dead. A low moan can be heard through these vaulted corridors. I mean, this game definitely doesn't make this place sound like a school of any kind. It makes it sound like a crypt, as is in the name. So, as I mentioned, they kind of just dump enemies in front of you and get you to fight them in these big open spaces, particularly where they can projectile you. This floor is a giant circuit that is encircling the main crypt itself in the very middle. The center area of this floor is an enormous open room filled with trenches, like a huge room. And the piece of the Staff of Chaos is in that room. But to get to the massive room, you have to go on a big adventure all the way to the east, then all the way to the north, then all the way to the west, all the way, well, most of the way to the south, and then finally you can sneak in. And as you do so, you're going to be in these wide open corridors where they just dump monsters at you, like all of these stone golems here. And I saw them, and I know that they're dangerous, so I just tried to jump ahead, and well, I was a fool, Jagar knows it, I got defeated. So here's a really handy thing that you can do. A new mechanic we haven't played with yet. And that is invisibility. So I bought a couple of invisibility potions between the past 2 episodes. You just get them in the Mages Guild anywhere else. You've not missed anything. I just clicked it on the list. It's the very bottom one on the list. And so, like with all active effects, you can't really feel it when it's on you. But you will notice that that golem a second ago didn't attack me. Oh, was I already invisible? Maybe now I'll be invisible. Okay, so we drink it. I'm not really sure when it will run out. But look, the stone golems, which are very dangerous, don't attack you. This is probably one of the most high value things that you can use invisibility potion against. And with levitation as well, I can kind of just sneak my way through everything. See? All these trolls not attacking me. I can claim this treasure pile, do whatever. Now, obviously, if you're in a really hostile area as the invisibility runs out and there's not much of a telegraph for it, you're going to be in real trouble. Same as if the levitation were to run out right when you're over a lava pit. That risk might have occurred to some of you guys in the previous episode. But what we actually need to do is go through this trench I just fell in. But I'm going to make a mistake and refresh my boots. No! Oh, which means we have to wait for them to run out. But this is kind of trickily designed in that we are encircling a massive central room, but if you just go very direct, eventually you're going to go into that empty room with the trolls, and you have to sneak through this trench right here. I think if there's a big thing that defines this crypt as an experience, it's really big obvious ways to go, and the actual route is like a tiny hidden door somewhere else, and this is kind of that for this floor. So instead of waiting for the levitation to run out, which can take a while, and to be honest, I'm not really sure if I need to move to keep the game ticking and stuff. I decided to just do the technique again. I mean, hell, it was really fun, right? So, levitate, invisibility, ghosts aren't attacking, golems aren't. Now, I think there is still a chance that they will attack. The way that the manual talks about invisibility, it's like, if you were to bump into people or really get in their face, they'll probably fight you. And as we've obviously read about the vampire and the fire demon, some really deadly things will detect you. So you have to be cautious of that. What I'm doing here, I've kind of resisted doing over many episodes, because when you watch a lot of like arena content online, particularly speedrun stuff, this is the essence of what a lot of those runs are. You know, if they're not just using the stone keep glitch over and over and over again, it's basically spam yourself some money and then spam levitate and spam invisibility. And with those two, just that combination of those two, what you're seeing I'm doing here, you can do through pretty much every floor of every dungeon. You remember earlier in the series, I mentioned that you can really kind of break this game and make it really easy. Well, this combination is one of the big things. So if you're looking to like get this game under your belt, as it were, I can't recommend this enough. It's crazy. Combine that with Pass Wall and finding maps online, you're pretty much not playing arena anymore, I would say, at that point. You're just sort of spamming your way through very easy mode stuff because there's not much going on. You obviously do run a risk with this. I'm not fighting stuff, so you are limited on loot and you are limited on levels, so you need to be confident you can actually get through the later stages of the game, and that's kind of the one, you know, waiting to all of this. But I am confident, and this is the only floor that we're doing this on here so far. I thought I showed it off. So, yeah, we're basically just did a huge journey all the way around Essential Area, as you can see here on the map. What we want to do is cut into the inside now, and they're a little bit sneaky on this last wall that we're coming down. We're going from the north to the south on the western wall. It's actually not very far down at all. It's really high up, as you can see here. This takes us to the central room. You can see what looks like a large crypt or temple far in the center of this room of chasms. And again, you've got these rocket... I mean, this is a cool combination. The stone elementals that you'd have to platform to, and they're projectiling you from far away. Like, that's really, really challenging. But we can just sneak through. And here's the door. Few have gained these hallowed halls. Brave fools would face the puzzle. There is a thing which nothing is, yet it has a name. It's sometimes tall and sometimes short. It tumbles when we fall. It joins our sport and plays at every game. What then doth I speak of? I think this is a really easy riddle as well. I think they messed up and they put the hard riddles at the start and the easy riddles at the end. Because this is obviously your shadow. I mean, this is a classic riddle, right? Could it be true that in the early 90s, that was not a well-regarded or well-known riddle? Could it be? Like the egg one? I mean, the last, 4 riddles have all been really easy. Almost wouldn't need any help with them. So anyway, this time I was prepared for a fight after the riddle. And sorry, guys, because they're easy, we don't get one of these cool moments where we pause and we say, oh, can you figure it out? I was ready for a fight this time, and they actually give you 2 fire daemons, which I have a feeling Bethesda thought would be harder than it is. But there you go. The 6th piece of the Staff of Chaos slides into the nearly complete rod like a sheath. A big moment for sure, only 2 left, and I figured, hey, let's rest and speak to Jagar this time before we leave. So what kinds of deadly servants does he have for us now that we're killing fire daemons and vampires and we're at the bottom of these hellish lavary crypts? Oh, it's 2 lizard men. 2 pieces to go.